One of the most valuable lessons I've learned over the past decade in real estate is how essential it is to learn from the industry professionals. That's why I'm gathering professionals from across the country to share their experiences with you. This is a Gregersen's podcast, where experience and passion come together in the world of real estate. I'm Casey Gregersen, your host, and I'm very excited you're tuning into today's episode. As always, if you have questions for me or any of our guests, please reach out to me at casey@gregersenproperties.com. Now let's get started with today's podcast. All right, welcome in, guys. I'm excited for our guest today, Mark Nzeocha. So Mark is a really special guest, guys. He not only played in the NFL, but he's now basically full-time into real estate. And really excited to dive in today how he kind of made that transition and what that looked like, and kind of what real estate investing looked like while he was in the league and playing, and kind of how that basically that journey and how he took him to where he is today. So anyway, Mark, and then the other kind of cool thing about Mark, many of you guys may not know, is Mark was born and raised in Germany. So Mark, give us a quick highlight of your story, kind of how you ended up from Germany and Laramie, Wyoming, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, first off, Casey, appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure. But yeah, to my person, born and raised in Germany, like you said. Man, where do I start? So I'm the second oldest out of four brothers, so competitiveness is something I was raised with, that was just normal in our household. And so naturally, I graduated towards football, even though it's very small sport in Germany at the time. But I was like, yeah, I want to try something new. I want to try something that is out of the ordinary, so to speak, right? So I started playing football when I was about 12 years old in Germany, started playing flag football, right? And yeah, so we had some very good coaches, a lot of American coaches, and eventually it got to the point where it's like, hey, you have a lot of talent, so maybe you have what it takes to play overseas in the US, right? And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, absolutely, that'd be cool. Why not give that a shot? So I started recording some games, because that wasn't even normal to do, so I had to set that up where I recorded my own games, and I started putting some highlight tapes together, and luckily enough, here, and I always have to get a shout out, the University of Wyoming, gave me a shot. They actually called me and flew me in on an official visit. It's like, hey, we've seen your tape, we love what you do, you're a great athlete and all that, and yeah, signed me without ever seeing me play in person, signed me to a full ride football scholarship.
Wow. And go into that story too, because I'm always curious, how the Cowboys in Laramie, little Laramie, Wyoming, found you in Germany, other than they just saw your tape, or how do they?
So, interesting story too. So one of my good friends, Oliver Schober, who's also from Germany, he was there a year before me, and he had some connections to the head coach back then. Dave Christensen was the head coach at Wyoming at the time. And one of his former players was my buddy's coach in Germany. So it's always about connection, right? It's always relationships. And so yeah, Oliver was at Wyoming at the time, and he was kind of the one who showed them my highlight tape, and kind of got the ball rolling that way. But yeah, so that's really what it was. Showed them my tape, and they liked what they saw, and it was crazy. They flew me in from Germany for a weekend, and I blew my mind, this whole college atmosphere, just being around on game day, something I had never seen. I played small time football in a foreign country, and then seeing major D1 college football and being there on game day and the excitement around it, that is something that blew me away. And yeah, definitely something I decided right then and there I want to be a part of. And that's how I got to Laramie, Wyoming.
Wow. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because then I want to come back to your transition in college to the NFL. But that experience, you've seen it probably like no one else. What was it like your first game running out in Laramie and War Memorial Stadium in front of, say, 30,000 people versus that first game in the NFL in an NFL stadium? How did they? But maybe the first one was crazier.
Right. Oh, I love that question, actually. First college game, the nerves were probably even higher. I'm not gonna lie. That was my very first game in college. We played against Weber State back then. It was a night game, actually, and I started right away. I was a true freshman. I started outside linebacker, and just that like I said, it was the first time experience all of this. So all the emotions came up, the goosebumps, and then, starting for the first time, it was everything. That was amazing. And then at football, it was for me a little gradual start. So because I fast forward a couple of years, I actually tore my ACL my senior year in college. So I got drafted being hurt, actually. So it took me a while. I was around for game days. So it took me a while to actually, I didn't start my first or play my first game in the NFL until week 10 of my rookie season. So by then I was somewhat already used to the lights, the crowds, but it was still special, strapping on because, I was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, putting on that star on your helmet for the first time. And just, it was a home game in front of, you guys ever been to AT&T Stadium? The atmosphere is unreal. 80,000+ screaming fans. That was definitely absolutely an incredible moment too. But I think, I put college at number one. The first game.
That's cool. That's a cool perspective coming from Germany to those different levels. So
absolutely.
Cool. Well, tell us, Mark. So you kind of touched on a little bit, kind of how you transitioned from college to the NFL. But I'm curious. Let's go back to you're in Laramie. You're going to school. Maybe tell us a little about what you were going to school for, and were you thinking about business? Were you thinking about real estate then? And then we can transition to how you actually made the jump to the NFL. But
right. So I was definitely always business in that mindset of doing business. So I actually got my degree in finance and in a minor in economics. So I was the original plan was always being into some sort of financial management, being a wealth manager, something along those lines. But then, so then going into the NFL just kind of changed my perspective because, I understand that wealth management is still a lot of relationship building, but it's still an office job. So you're going to sit in an office at some extent of time. And I was like, no, I don't know if I want that. I don't think I want to, sit in an office and on a desk and crunch numbers and looking at charts and all that. I was like, I want to be out and about. I want to meet people. I want to kind of be my own boss and do what I, put my own thing together. So that's kind of where slowly, but it didn't start until I was in the NFL by year 2 or 3, when I kind of started forming this real estate idea. Cause it's so crazy. For everyone to understand, the NFL is this little fraternity, right? Every day, after practice, you just sit down in the locker room. The locker room is unreal. It's the coolest atmosphere. You just sit down with a group of people, or you're in the sauna or in the hot tub, whatever it may be, and you just talk about life and life goals and ideas and what you do for investments and this. And it's unreal, the ideas that be thrown around, right? Because everyone has a little bit of money, so it's you always pick each other brains. What is your life goals, or how you invest your money and what do you do? So that's when one of my good buddies, he started investing in real estate in his hometown, which is a college town. He started investing early, his rookie or second year in the NFL. So he had 3 or 4 rentals early on in his career. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. And he started talking about it and kind of planted that seed in my head. I was like, wow, that is such a cool way to generate wealth and hopefully, generational wealth down the line. So that's kind of how it started for me, the whole idea.
Interesting. Yeah, share too. I know the name, but who was the guy? Because he was a Montana guy, right?
His name was Brock. He's from where's Montana at? University of Montana.
Yeah, Montana State, right? Wasn't he in Bozeman?
No, exactly. So he is from Montana, he's from Missoula, but invests in
Bozeman.
Yeah, right. So it was always confusing. So he is from where Montana State is.
Oh, okay.
But he went to Montana.
Got it. Okay. Got it. And now he invests in, you said he was buying rentals, right? In Bozeman at the time when he's in the NFL?
Correct. Yeah. So his sister was still going to school there. And so he bought her. They did some house hacking with her, bought her, I'm not sure, it might have been a 4-plex. She lived in one unit with her roommate, rented out the other units, and then bought a couple multifamily units out there, and did well with that. And he is actually, it's funny too. He was the one who suggested Rich Dad Poor Dad to me for the very first time. Yeah, and that was in 2016. I remember saying, "Hey, you got to listen to this book," and he actually sent me the audiobook, and that's how things got rolling. And the funny thing is, I know that was the start for you as well. I just finished listening to it like a week ago. Like every once in a while, it's like the fourth time I listen to it. Man, such a good book, and
really,
always a good
times you listen to it.
Yeah, such a good reminder. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it all started, and yeah, it's great, and I'm finally, now that I actually done with playing football, I kind of got the ball rolling, because during my playing times I was still too busy with I have a young family, taking care of all that. But now that I'm not in football anymore, I actually had time to pull the trigger on a few things. So it's been good. It's been a fun process. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's dive into that a little more. But just I want to highlight, though, with Mark, what he just told you guys is, again, a lot of people I think can relate to that, Mark, and they maybe couldn't have. They might have thought, oh, like NFL players, they're not thinking, like, they're not talking to their coworkers, essentially learning from them, seeing how they're doing it, having those conversations, and then basically, again, them also turning on to the book. That's super cool. They turn you on to Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I think a lot of people can relate to that same story. Or maybe their coworker, somebody's telling them to go listen to this and they haven't yet. Maybe that'll kind of motivate them to go read it. But that's cool. You just started hearing that from other people that were doing it in the locker room, and then you started taking action. So go a little bit more, though. What did it look like, though? So you're still playing in the NFL.
Right.
And I guess go ahead, let people know kind of how many years you played in the NFL, and then what did it look like after you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and you were hearing these different ideas? What did that kind of process look like? And I know you just mentioned that you didn't take a ton of action until you got out, because obviously you were all in on football and making that last as long as you could. But I'm just curious what it looked like after that.
Right. So yeah, just quickly about my career. So I got drafted by the Cowboys to Dallas here in 2015. I only played here for a couple of years, so I spent the 15-16 part of the 17th season. Unfortunately, I tore my meniscus, had some knee issues, and they released me at the beginning of the season. And then by week 2, I was picked up by San Francisco 49ers, and I spent the next 5 years out there, which just as a side note, that was the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of what that did for my career and my relationships. And it was great. So no hard feelings there against the Cowboys, because we still call Dallas home, by the way. So we made this our home base. So we still reside here in the suburbs of North Dallas. But San Fran really has a special place in my heart as well. Spent some great 5 years out there. But what was the other question? Sorry.
Yeah, just curious. So once you kind of read Rich Dad Poor Dad, sounded like that was around 2016. Like, what did it kind of? What were some of the next steps before you left the league? Right, when you were you didn't have time to really get into real estate investing, but I know you were still thinking about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was after that point that I actually was kind of developed the mindset of, I need to actively do something with my money, because as bad as it sounds, I was like, I was making decent money as a early 20-year-old kid, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? And I stacked it in my bank account, which is obviously the worst thing you can do. And then
compared to what some people have done with their money.
Yeah, true. Right. But I started investing. I found a financial advisor, and we started investing. And I told him from the beginning, is there some funds where we can maybe go into real estate? And and they did implement my wishes there. And so I at least was not actively, but with passively investing into real estate, I'd say, right? And fast forward 5-6 years later, so officially retired in 2022. My last game of my career I played, that was the NFC Championship game of the 21 season, which was played in 2022, January of 2022, right? That was my last game. And then after that, I was like, okay, now what? Because I have a hard time just sitting around doing nothing. I'm just like natural as a football player. That was my whole life. It's like, I'm a go-getter. I need to work towards a goal. It's like, okay, what comes natural to me? It's like that real estate is fun. That's a passion of mine. That's something I want to pursue full time, right? So I figured, okay, what should I do? So I was like, okay, naturally, I have a few buddies in the industry. Let's get my real estate license, right? I was like, okay, I figured that's the next step. So that's what I've been doing for the past year now. I've been working as a real estate agent, mainly on the residential side. But my main passion is absolutely dissecting deals, connecting with other real estate agents. Like I work, even though I'm a real estate agent myself, I work with a lot of agents who have great connections with investors. So I could connect a lot with other real estate agents that bring me deals, even though I'm my own agent myself, you know? So
Yep.
it's always about connections. There's not a rivalry. There's not like a competitiveness. It's like, hey, we all trying to, we're all in this business together. You know, it's all about, you know, if you eat, we all eat, you know, like
Yep.
we all can share the pie. So no, it's been great, honestly, this year, just like networking, getting to know people. I hang out here at at I'm part of this club. It's called Cowboys Club. It's at the Star here in Dallas, where there's a lot of wealthy people hanging out, and you know, just networking, meeting people. You know, me being a former player, like it is crazy to think about, but it does. I would say, like, you know, it opens some doors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nothing, you know, I'll take for granted, but it's pretty cool. Like, you know, just like getting to know some of these people and, you know, share some of their wisdom. And there's you know, there's some big players out here in terms of what development, about development, or like multifamily housing, like multi billionaires I've talked to, and it's just like seeing different perspective, because I'm just in the beginning stages of this career, but seeing the end goal, or like, you know, people who've really made it, just like broadens my horizon, shows things in a different perspective, and that's, you know, it's been very fun.
Yeah, that's super cool, Mark. And you can see
Mhm.
you've always had it, right? Like you were doing it in the NFL when you were a
Right.
rookie. You were learning from vets and seeing how they're investing their money. Now that you're out of the league, you're again trying to level up and surround yourself with these people.
That's
And I can
absolutely
only
true.
imagine the doors
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
opening, and just the connections and just the
Very,
stuff
very
you're
true. That's
absorbing.
a great point, because, you know, even, yeah, since I'm a rookie, I always try to, like, you emulate, right, the all pro, the pro bowler in your room, right? It's like, hey, what does he do, and what does he do so great that that's where I want to go? So what do I need to go to get to that level? So obviously you do what works, what, you know, what someone who's gotten there has done. So, you know, that's exactly what I'm trying to do in business now.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
cool. Another thing I know, yeah, that's good stuff, Mark. Another thing you shared with me before, and I think it's really cool for other people to see, is just kind of how you manage your money when you first got to the league, right? Versus, and I'm just curious your mindset, because I think that's where it probably all comes from, for when you came into the league and maybe got the first signing bonus. Like, what did you spend it on? I know what you didn't spend it on, but what was your mindset then, and how you basically built more wealth to where you could actually, now you're really prepared. And then I'm curious, the follow-up question is, how has that helped you kind of roll into real estate when you
Right,
left?
right. Yeah, great question. So I'm, you know, like I mentioned, I'm one of four brothers, right? My parents don't come from a lot of money. I grew up, I would say, very humble. You know, we didn't have anything in excess. We didn't lack anything, but, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. But that whole mindset is something like I just carried throughout life, that I really don't need a lot to be happy. So once I've got to money a little bit, it's like, okay, I still, honestly, for the first 2-3 years in the league, I lived like I was still in college. Like I still had my 1 bedroom apartment. With my signing bonus, which back then I think it was $70,000. So I was like, okay, I bought a car. Didn't buy anything fancy. I bought a used car. It was a Chevy, right? Say, hey, if I never play it down in this league, at least I can afford this car. So I'm very, always like very conservative, I'd say, and very careful with my money. But that is something also, you know, it didn't bite me, but it hindered me on some opportunities, I'd say. But, you know, let me elaborate on that here in a little bit. But yeah, I was always very, very frugal. Yeah, frugal is a good word, right? I just didn't spend a lot of money, and I had to learn to. It is okay to spend money on the right things, right? On assets. You know, obviously that is one of the lessons in Rich Dad Poor Dad, that you can spend money on things that make you money back. So, and that is something I didn't take advantage of for a long time, I'd say. You know, but yeah, throughout my career, you know, there were some deals that were presented to me, and I'm like, no, I'm just and I was honestly like, I was scared to like sometimes to like, part ways with money. It's like, I just want to hoard all this and hoard, which is, I don't think that's the right approach. Cause there's a lot of times there's the saying that the opportunity lives on the other side of fear. Right. And sometimes you have to just say, take that leap of faith and, it pans out, I mean, you might not, but you never know until you try it. So, there was some regrets, but overall, yeah, I've been very, very careful with my money, which has served me well, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and because you led right into my next question is how you got comfortable then to pull the trigger on the first real estate deal. Because I think it sounds like you actually had some of that analysis by paralysis, maybe while you're in the league. But what made you, is that what helped you overcome it when you're ready? Hey, I'm going to buy this first investment property, even though I don't necessarily know what I'm doing.
Right.
How'd you get comfortable?
Yeah. See, I just honestly I was at the point it's like, hey, I really adopted that mindset. It's like, hey, you gotta just pull the trigger at some point. You will never, there's never a perfect time. You will never time the market or whatever it may be perfectly. Sometimes you just gotta jump right in. And that's exactly what I did, and I was fortunate enough where obviously, I have a little bit of money. So I could borrow money against my stock portfolio. So to speak, I paid cash from my first investment property, which was a duplex. That was a great learning experience, honestly, my first duplex, because I inherited tenants in there, which at the time we thought, I didn't know much. I said, oh, that's great, right? It's already occupied. It's going to be cash flowing right away. Oh, my goodness. We were just so wrong because there was some rough tenants. It was pretty bad. It was this young couple who had called the cops on them multiple times. There's they had illegally some dogs in there. They were illegally subleasing. One time I just showed up and now, hey, I need to check on something, and there was totally different people living in my place. And yeah,
Wow.
it was my first one, right?
First one. So
Right.
What's that look like though now? Like, so because I think this is important that you didn't know what you were doing. You went through some hurdles, but what's that property look like now for you?
Right. So we had to threaten with eviction a couple times. Eventually we got him out. Thank God. And then we went in there. It was trash. The apartment was trash. They left all their stuff in there. Thankfully, security deposit took care of everything. But yeah, we renovated there. We put quite a bit of money in there and made it really nice. Thankfully, the neighbor, he is a great tenant. He's awesome, an elderly gentleman who's been super responsible with everything. Now we have a new tenant in there, and we actually just closed on the refinance. So I pulled my cash back out, almost got all of it back, which is the burst strategy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and now waiting, we're looking for the next one to roll that money into. So no, it was definitely a bumpy start. There's no doubt about that. But I think something like that is great just for learning experience. Like if everything goes smooth from the beginning, you like, okay, you never know. But like these bumps definitely they harden you a little bit, and they definitely that's really the tough way to learn, and the best way to learn through experience, I'd say. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to highlight that you said, Mark, is on the way you took this down, right? So I think a lot of people, this is a strategy not many people know about. So I don't know if people caught this, but Mark he had obviously some assets and some capital to invest, but he didn't go take out cash to buy, right? You actually borrowed against your stock portfolio, right? And that's where you got the money to pay. So your money stayed at work in the stock market, still gaining a return, right? And then you use that money and then to go invest it. But tell a little bit more about why you did that, because that is such a cool strategy that a lot of people could use.
Yeah, honestly, because it is the best rate I could get. If you compare that to a hard money loan, hard money, I think at the moment, you would know better than me, but probably
12, 12, maybe 14%.
Right.
Today.
Exactly. So I just refinanced. So that's been about 6 months. So I took the money out for 6 months against my portfolio, And that interest rate is, well, it's a variable interest rate. It depends on the Fed fund rate, but it's 1% plus the Fed fund rate. The Fed fund rate at the moment, I believe it was like, it's at 5%, maybe 5.5%. So it was 6%. So I borrowed the money just way cheaper than anywhere else I could get. It's cheaper than a HELOC. It's cheaper than anywhere. So and it's just so easy. Like I tell my financial advisor, hey, listen, I don't know, let's say $300,000, and that money is in my account a few hours later. Like it goes like this. Yeah.
And so how long did it take to set that up with your financial advisor to have that, call it this line of credit? Was it easy?
It's super easy. Yeah, it was really simple. Like I just told them, like they actually like made me aware of that a few years ago, that I installed a pool here in my personal home, and back then, that was during COVID. The fund rate was really cheap. The fund rate was I think it's at 0.25%. So I borrowed money from myself at 1.25% and bought a pool in my pool and built a pool in my yard. So it is absolutely crazy. Obviously, since it's gone up quite a bit, but yeah, that's the first time I heard about it's like borrowing on margin, and yeah, been using it ever since. And I used it on my second property as well. So just refinanced the last one, paid some of that back, right? And then in the meantime, I bought another one too.
Heck yeah.
Yes,
cool. That's where I'm going next, but I just want to highlight again. So he left his money in the market. It's been going as the market goes. But the other thing is a taxable event, right? Because sometimes if you go sell stock, because alternatively, you could go sell your stock, invest that in real estate. But when you do this, there's no taxable event because you didn't touch your stock. I mean, you borrowed against them, but you didn't liquidate them, right?
Absolutely. So I think isn't it still a loss? Like in the books, it's a loss, so it's actually tax deductible.
The interest would be. Right. Yeah, I know the interest that you paid on that line of credit would definitely be tax deductible.
So yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's if you able to do that and you have a stock portfolio, I think that is a no-brainer. And like in terms of the benefits and in terms of right now where the rate's at, I think that is the cheapest way to borrow money right now.
Yep. Love it. So tell us what else you've done though, Mark, so you bought that duplex. You've mentioned you bought a couple other ones, but what have you done? And then give people a feel for that kind of time range of when you bought that first one to where you're at now.
Right. So my financial advisors, told me, yeah, this is the amount you can play with. So spend some on the first one. So we still had some money left over. So okay, might as well keep looking. That's what I spend most of my time on, just looking for deals. And since the first one worked out pretty good, the first duplex, I was like, okay, let's stay in the duplex realm and keep looking for that. Found my other property. When did we close on that? Probably a month ago, about a month ago. So it was about 6 months later. It took me a while to find the next one, but it's about 6 months later, I found this next one it's in Irving, Texas, another duplex. Honestly, it was I like this one a lot. Just, it's in a good area. It's close. It's close to Dallas, only about a 15-minute drive to Dallas. It is about 30 minutes from Fort Worth, so right in the middle of, two big cities, but it's still the suburban feel. You're still in a quiet area. So put actually quite a bit. No, I mean, I wouldn't say quite a bit, but we put some money in to renovate that, make it really nice, because I wasn't sure if I'm going to flip this one. Right now, I think we are decided on renting this one, but it's probably nicer than your average rental. But yeah, no, we made it quite nice, and should be ready. Only have a little cleaning work done, so should be ready to hit the market here hopefully in a couple of weeks or so. And yeah, I'm going to rent that one.
Nice.
And I'm excited. Nice. And then hopefully we start that that refi process with that one as well, and pull it out, and then we have a nice chunk of change from both refinances, and then hopefully that's my goal. My personal goal is I want to try to scale this up, and then maybe go from duplexes up to fourplexes or like into commercial properties like 4 units plus or above 4 units, where just always trying to up the game a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I love the position you're in, Mark, because again, you were want to call it frugal, whatever you want to call it with your money while you were making money in your W-2. And that could be anybody, could be just, you don't have to be an NFL player to have a strong W-2, but you spank that and now you're ready. And now, even though rates are high, like prices are starting to drop, there's less buyers, but now you've got this kind of war chest ready to go and go buy stuff. And so,
yeah, and I'm a big proponent of like, I'm honestly, I'm not that worried about the interest rates. Yeah, sure, I'm gonna take less of a profit here probably for a year or two, but then you can always refinance, or then by the time once the rates come down, there's gonna be such high demand for buying. So if you want to flip it then, so the interest rates is definitely nothing that scares me, but I think it's definitely creates opportunity if you have some funds.
Yep, love it. And the other cool thing Mark is doing, and I love it because I'm like you, Mark. I like looking at numbers. Mark sent some deals to me, and I've kind of looked at them. But I love, so it looks like you're now, talk more about kind of what you want to do moving forward, because it sounds like you're starting to look at some multifamily deals, and as you mentioned, kind of stair step your way up.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to figure out how to really scale this thing, right? So the goal is ideally that I could be a real estate investor full time, right? And in order to do that, obviously I gotta get a bigger portfolio, and I'm trying to scale it up where get multi-family units. Like I'm talking, you tell me, it's like, I don't know, like 50, 60, 100, because there's guys in the locker rooms. I talked to Trent Williams, is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Talked to him a lot about that. He owns, at the time I talked to him last, he owned 500 unit complexes. So he owned, what is that? Over 500 doors.
Wow.
Yeah. Obviously that is a whole different kind of scale, but something like that, right? I think that is the direction where I would love to go, where like you just scale this up, maybe sell one of the duplexes, roll that into, a 4-plex, roll that eventually into a 10-plex, and just like build the portfolio up that way.
Yeah, I think it's such a good way to do it, Mark, because you can, some people try to jump, and some people say, why don't you just go for the 101 right away? But you're not learning all those hard lessons along the way that you're going to go apply. You're going to apply your lessons for your duplex to your 4 to maybe your 10 and maybe your 30 unit. And
Agreed. I think it's crucial. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up. Kind of final question, Mark. What would you kind of say to people who maybe are just kind of conservative, or maybe like you were, right? Because when you first said, you're like, hey, I don't want to depart with this cash. I want to hoard it. I worked hard for this and I got it. Like, what would you say to those people that just need that little push over the ledge to get into real estate?
Right. Yeah.
Or actively.
Right. No, I would say, first of all, I get it. I get where you're coming from. But I think you got to always approach it from the point of, okay, you understand that inflation is something that is going to happen regardless, right? So if you're not using your money, and if you just have it sitting there, you actually actively losing money. Your buying power goes down by not having your money in some way or capacity work for yourself, right? So I think just with that information alone, you should be like, okay, I need to earn at least 3% a year in order to not lose any money. And I think just real estate is just such a safe vehicle. It's been proven over and over over time that it is even outperforms, and it's more steady than the stock market over time. So I believe, for me personally, it's been great. I think it's important to definitely do your own due diligence in finding good deals. But I think something is real estate, something tangible, something you can see. You see that you own that, something that will never go out of style. People will always need homes and shelter. I think it's just a no-brainer, right? It's just something that will always be there and always be in style, I'd say.
Love it, man. Well, cool. We'll wrap up there, Mark. Appreciate you coming on. I think you're a great example of somebody who's didn't know it all about real estate, but got into it. And I love how you've taken your competitiveness. You've taken just your understanding numbers and looking at things like logically, and also just, I don't know, the wanting to grow and wanting to keep it going, right? So you've done awesome stuff. I think you're going to continue to do great stuff in real estate. And anyway, I just think it's a cool example to share with people that, hey, you don't have to start investing at a super young age, but whenever you get started and just start making those little moves, and like you said, you're going to be well on your way to a goal to where you've got your active income from your rentals is going to be enough to support your family before long.
Right. And that's the goal. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. It's always a pleasure. I love talking real estate. I love connecting with like-minded people. And, this is definitely a pleasure.
As you may have learned by tuning into this episode of Gregersen, the easiest way to make real estate investing hard is by going at it alone. So as you continue learning and seeking knowledge of the industry, I want to encourage you to build relationships with other professionals who are passionate about real estate. Whether that's an agent, a business owner, or a managing investor like myself, there are pros that want to see you succeed and are willing to help you by sharing their experience. You can always reach me by visiting CaseyGregersen.com and scheduling a call. I look forward to connecting with you and continuing to share my experience with you here on Gregersen's Mobile. Until next time, I'm Casey Gregersen. Thanks for tuning in.